ranging from the issues for juvenile justice, racial equity, mental health, addiction, conviction, integrity, and expungement, post-conviction and probation, domestic violence, sexual assault, corporate crimes, immigration, you name it. And we're going to have some exciting stuff to roll out, I think, post January 1st, that's going to move our county justice system in what we think is going to be a much more fairer and equitable and rehabilitative direction. So we're tremendously excited about all the work that we've been doing since August, and really excited to unveil some of it come January 1st. I'll say too, one of the first things we did was engaged in a listening tour across Washtenaw County in partnership with our Chief Public Defender, Delphia Simpson, Chief Judge Carol Kuhnke of the Washtenaw Trial Court, and Judge Pat Conlon, who's going to be taking over a criminal docket. We did this across Washtenaw County outdoors in September, back when it wasn't freezing out, as well as on Zoom, and that's something we're going to continue to do, over the course of the 4 years that I'm in office, because at the end of the day, the community really needs to be centered in all of these conversations. And we got a lot of great feedback, heard a lot of great ideas, concerns, questions at these listening tour events. We didn't have an agenda, but I think it's important to keep doing that. And of course, I was really grateful to be joined by some of our partners at the county and on the bench. But probably the most exciting thing that we've done is bringing on Victoria. Victoria ran an incredible campaign for Wayne County prosecutor, and our platforms were very, very similarly aligned. So we knew each other. We got to know each other running in neighboring counties on a criminal justice reform platform over the course of the campaign. We were up on election night watching each other's election results, and Wayne County's lost, Washtenaw County's gained. She's a U of M alum. So this is kind of a homecoming from her, and beyond everything else, she's a tremendously respected lawyer across practicing in federal and state courts across the state. Great manager, team builder. She's going to be a wonderful, wonderful number 2 in the office. But beyond that, and what was so important to me about Victoria is she is somebody who is community oriented. This is something we've talked a lot about, and that's something that we really want to build out in the prosecutor's office, is being more present in the community, centering the community in conversations. So I am just absolutely thrilled to have her on board as the second in command in the Washtenaw County prosecutor's office. And I will turn it over to her if she wants to say a few words, though she's already, of course, weighed in on living single. So, Victoria?
It's okay if y'all don't have love for living single. I love you back. Hi, everyone. I am thrilled to not only be here in this breakfast, but to be coming to Washtenaw County. I spent 4 years there, beautiful 4 years, and the people are beautiful. This is my first time taking part of a My Brother's Keeper event, and just the genuine nature of you all, I feel it, even though we're not in the same room. I just feel the love between you all as Black men and the love that you have for the community. And that's beautiful. That's what I live for. And I am excited to get in the mix of that. I'm often seen out quoting Charles Hamilton Houston. And it's a quote that I hold near and dear to my heart. And that is, to be a Black lawyer in this skin, you can be one of 2 things. You can either be a social engineer for justice, or you can be a parasite on your community. And I pride myself on being that social engineer for justice. I pride myself, quite frankly, on fighting for Black liberation. I pride myself on continuing the work that our ancestors have started, have fought and died for. And it is our obligation to continue that. So thank you so much for bringing me into the fold. This will not be my last breakfast. You all are a very fun group, I can tell. And I can tell your heart and your passion is serving our community, and in particular, our Black brothers. As you know, we incarcerate more Black men in this country than we educate, and that's obviously problematic. I'm excited to be a part of an office that wants to not just do something about that in response to it, but start to take bold moves to create possibilities and opportunities so that we can get out in front of the problem. So with that, thanks so much, and I'll be around.
Wow. So thank you. Again, we're so fortunate, I think, to have you here. I think excited, and Ellie, I think it really just speaks to your leadership already, the kind of decisions and people you put around you. So hearing that, Victoria, like you've kind of given me chills just thinking about that mindset being in our prosecutor's office and the leadership. So thank you both for that. Just want to ask you all a couple of questions. Ellie, you know, one of the reasons we were really, really excited to have you come back is because the last time you really spoke like this was during the campaign. And so you were campaigning, and that's always different than now once you're in the seat. So now you're in the seat, or technically we'll be in there very soon in the office. Can you just speak to one of the biggest points I think you made during that MBK debate was around no cash bail, and you spoke a lot about that. Can you maybe just take some time to hone in on that piece, the no cash bail, a little bit more, and kind of what your thoughts are and what you're doing now that you're in the seat?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, just to sort of take a step back and talk a little bit about what cash bail is. So cash bail, of course, is a system in which, you know, you are arrested for a crime, and you are held in jail. This is before any adjudication of guilt, but you're held in jail until and unless you can come up with enough money out of pocket or out of your bank account to secure your freedom. Now, at its core, right, in my view, that is tremendously inequitable, because what that means is we are holding people in jail, you know, simply because they cannot afford to pay to get out, and the result is that people that are held even for relatively minor offenses, you know, if they're poor, they can't get out. Whereas wealthier people, even if they pose a danger to the community, if they're able to make that bond, they're able to go free. So at its core, it is an inequitable system. Now I will pause and say, because I know the sheriff is on this call, and I think that our bench and our sheriff's office have done really great work during COVID, especially minimizing the number of people that are coming into the Washtenaw County Jail, which is tremendous work, and I know something that we're going to build on in this community. But back to the sort of concept of cash bail, my view on this is we should be holding people in jail pending trial only if they are a real imminent danger to the community. But the amount of money that you have in your bank account shouldn't play a role in that. The same standard should apply to everybody, whether you're poor, whether you're wealthy, or whether you're working class. So just conceptually, full stop, I oppose cash bail. And I ran strongly on that, and I said we were not going to keep it in the or we're not going to seek it in the prosecutor's office, and I meant that. Now, obviously, you know, Derek, as you mentioned, it's one thing to have a sort of bumper sticker slogan for a campaign, and then it's another thing to actually operationalize policies around it. And that's why I'm so grateful for all of the people that have come together on our transition working teams representing different perspectives to put into place a policy around what the prosecutor's office is going to do with respect to cash bail and pretrial detention. And I can sort of give you a preview, but we've got a document that we're going to be releasing publicly after January 1st that gives guidance to our assistant prosecuting attorneys about what we're going to be seeking pre-trial. But the basic gist of it is this. If you are an imminent danger to the community, we will either seek to hold you or we will seek non-monetary conditions that are strict enough to ensure public safety. And some of those may be very difficult to meet and may indeed result in somebody being held either for a while or indefinitely pretrial if they can't meet those restrictions. But if you do not pose a threat to the community, if you're just in there for something, you know, which you shouldn't do, but like a retail fraud, passing a bad check, right? Something like that, something where there's no imminent threat to the community, we should not be holding you. And we're going to seek release pre-trial with any appropriate conditions to ensure that somebody comes back to court and to ensure that the community is safe. And you know, we talk a lot about the justice system as though it sits in a silo, as though it's something that exists sort of separate from the rest of society. But part of the reason that this is so important to me is you really see adverse consequences sort of cascade out when we are holding people in jail simply because they can't afford to pay to get out. The data shows that if you're working class, if you work a shift job, if you spend even 3 days in jail, you're more likely than not to lose your job. And then think about the effects that has on families, on housing security, on kids, right? And again, we need to keep public safety front and center. And if you really need to be in jail pending trial, we're going to seek to hold you there. But it shouldn't be that you're sitting in jail, that your security, your job, your housing, your family's ability to thrive is threatened simply because you made a mistake and you don't have enough money in your bank account. And that's the direction that we're going to be moving in the prosecutor's office.
Got it. Thank you.
Derek, if I can just chime in. So a couple of things. So, I agree with Ellie's position on cash bail in theory and in actuality for the most part. I just think it's important for all of us to know a couple of things. So the prosecutor's office, like the sheriff's office, is one part of the larger criminal legal system. So we have to understand that, and Ellie, I'd like you to speak to this too. The prosecutor can have a policy of not seeking cash bail, but that does not mean that cash bail will not be placed on someone, because that's the judge's decision. And the reason why I say this is because it's not just a prosecutorial reform or evolution. It's not just a sheriff's office reform or evolution. It's a criminal legal system reform and evolution, which requires all components of the criminal justice system to move in the same direction. Now, obviously, the prosecutor can enact policies independent of the overall system, just as we can, but it works better when the entire system moves in the same direction. And I'll add one piece. It also would be better if you had legislative movement in that direction, which is why when the governor put forth her jail and pretrial task force, which some of us were a part of, some of that legislation is being moved through the legislative body in Lansing. I mentioned that to this group is because it takes community voice to get it over the hump. So it's good to be inspired by the words and for us to do it at the local level, but we also have to do it at the state level to make it a reality statewide. Your criminal legal system experience should not be dependent on where you live or travel in the state. And I just think that's important, and I'll stop there.
And I couldn't agree more. And it's a really important point. And one of the things that I think that we have a real opportunity to do here in Washtenaw County is we should be leaders on this. We should be showing the rest of the state how it's done and how we can do this while keeping the community safe, but building out a more equitable system. Of course, what the sheriff said is 100% correct. And I got to be clear about this. My policy is with respect to my office. We're not seeking cash bail. Of course, the ultimate decision is up to judges. And it's important that we work together in the same direction. But I echo what the sheriff said. The arbitrariness of cash bail, for example, is that you get different treatment in the legal system depending on how much money you have in your bank account. But there should not be a similar arbitrariness in the legal system. If you do something in Washtenaw County, you get sort of one set of rules, and then if you do something over in Wayne County, then you're treated much more harshly. So if we care about criminal justice reform, it is crucial. I echo the sheriff to lift up our voices and really advocate for it at the state level. The good thing is, I think, and the sheriff's a great example of this with his service on the Joint Task Force on Jail and Pretrial Incarceration, which was a bipartisan group that brought a lot of different stakeholders together. I think one of the few things right now in our country politically that there is actually cross-ideological consensus on is the need for criminal justice reform. You saw this recently in the legislature with a package of bills that had bipartisan support to dramatically expand eligibility for expungement in Michigan. So I think this is really a moment where we can make a difference, and we can hopefully get some stuff through at the state level, which is that's the end goal, I think.
So this is a great discussion, and I want to say that just to the folks on here. So, one of our main goals in WMBK is around educating ourselves to then therefore move forward and enact policies or have influence over policies and make sure that Black men and young boys of color, that their voices are at the table when these really significant decisions are being made. So I think us taking this information is really, really important. And then how do we turn that into action? So I just wanted to highlight that. So we are having some issues. Jamal and his tech savviness, he already said it in the chat. So there's no hand raising feature. I have Miss Jeanette, and then I have Bilal. If you want to ask a question, just make sure you either put it in the chat or just raise your hand. And I also have Turo up. Turo was one of the young men who was grilling you in the debate, Ellie. So we'll have Miss Jeanette, if you want to unmute and maybe just ask your question, and then we'll go to Bilal after that. I know I also have Mr. Brian Johnson in line as well. So Miss Jeanette.
Hi, hi everyone. I'm glad that you all had me on. I missed you. I missed you, Ellie. Yes, Ellie. Good to see you again.
You too.
And I'm in all the places. But I wanted to ask the question: if or do you have any plan on prevention for criminal juvenile?
Yes, yes, absolutely, and you know that's something that we're going to be back here at these breakfasts, but also hopefully working in partnerships with organizations like WMBK to build up. So I'll tell you sort of my broad thinking around juvenile justice, and a lot of people on this call probably know this from the debate, and if you're paying attention to the campaign, but I actually didn't start my career as a lawyer. I started my career as an 8th grade history teacher, and look, kids are going to make mistakes. Kids are going to screw up, but not every mistake that a kid makes. In fact, relatively few of them should tether a kid to the criminal justice system. And the most important thing for a great many kids is really addressing the underlying reason that they're getting into trouble in the first place. And one of the most powerful things we can do is build out and support mentorship programs like WMBK, but you know, others as well that connect with young people. They get an adult in their life that shares passions, that can build that connection. And if it's an authentic type of relationship, that's what really makes a difference in kids' life. You know, this isn't just sort of me giving this idea, but obviously I do have some experience with it from my days as a teacher, but also the data bears that out. A more effective intervention than juvenile detention for a great many kids, for most kids, is opportunities to connect with mentorship and have something positive to do, so they're not getting into trouble. So my idea is this, and we've been working on this in our juvenile justice working group. And also in partnership with the county. But you know, the way that the process works is in general, law enforcement will refer a delinquency case to the prosecutor's office, and we'll make a decision about whether to file a delinquency petition or not, which of course puts a young person into the court system. And our idea is this: what if, as an intermediary step there, in between that process, we had a system set up in which we could assess what was going on in that kid's life? And it's not going to be the prosecutor's office doing this. We want, you know, trained social workers, mental health professionals, and if we could do it, we could put together a package of interventions for a kid, and basically give them a contract saying, look, here's what we're going to expect you to do. You know, go to school. Maybe we can address some transportation issues that are preventing you from doing that. Maybe there's some underlying things going on at school. We can you know, bring that up the ladder to the school. Maybe it's something like, you know, you just don't like the clothes you're wearing to school, and kids sometimes act out for a reason as basic as that. And hopefully we can find ways to address those needs. But then also we'll put you on a plan, right? And maybe we'll connect you with a mentor through a program like My Brother's Keeper, or maybe it's an after-school program, you know, through something like the Neutral Zone or Educate Youth or something like that, right? And it's going to be individualized for kids, because, you know, what would have if I had been I did some stupid stuff when I was a kid. I was lucky enough not to get caught. And for me, the only thing that I cared about was basketball. I cared what my basketball coach thought about. If he looked at me cross-eyed, you know, that was enough for me. But not every kid likes basketball, right? Some kids like music, some kids like art. There's a variety of different things that kids are passionate about. But if we can connect them with these programs, we can say, look, stay out of trouble, go to school. Here's what you're going to do. Maybe if it's an older kid, we connect them with a workforce development program, so we can get them sort of trained up for a job, if that's that's the path they want to go down. And then if they stay out of trouble, what is the point of sinking the legal system's hooks into them? So my preference is for pre-charge deflection, to address the issues before the prosecutor's office really gets involved. Now, of course, this is I'll be candid. There's some stuff, there's some policies that we can put out on day one. This is something that requires working together and building up different programs and different opportunities for young people. But this is the direction I'd like to go in. And we've already been having really, I think, positive conversations with the county around this initial assessment process, and I'm hopeful that that's going to go through. But then after that, we've got to start building these partnerships. And I can say we're going to deflect a kid out of the system all we want, but the truth of the matter is we need authentic places for them to go, and that's where we're going to be, hopefully looking for partnerships with programs like WMBK to build out those programs so we can really intervene early and make a difference in our kids' lives.
So I'll just say that I heard two things very loud and clear. One is WMBK's role specifically. So to the fellows on the call, for us to really be thinking about how do we create those diversionary or deflection opportunities in our community, and how do we play a role in that? The other is, I'm not sure if you could see it while you were speaking, Ellie, but I saw a great discussion with Victoria, Shamar, Mike, and a couple other folks really talking about that workforce development option that you just mentioned in some of your comments. So I think that's really what MBK is about, is, putting people together, networking, and solving some of these difficult problems. All right, so Mr. Turo, you're up next, and then Bilal is after that. So Turo, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
So my question is about this whole time you've been talking about eliminating cash bail, and I would just want to know more about what you're going to do when you're prosecuting, because I was just curious.
So you were a little bit faint, but if I heard the question right, you said
Wait. Here, let me hear.
the whole talking about cash bail, but you're curious about some of the other stuff we're going to do when we're a prosecutor, or did I get the question right?
That's my question. Yeah. And then I have
Yeah. So, all right. So thank you for that question. And you're right. Cash bail is one part of it, but it's in no way, the only thing that a prosecutor does. So there's a few things that I think you can expect, but one of the biggest things, and this is just sort of fundamental, is we are going to try to get every case right, based on the particular facts and circumstances of that case, right? Because every case is different. It involves somebody that did something, maybe to somebody else, and there's a relationship there, and there's a reason that they did it, and not every crime, even crimes of the same type, are really the same. And so one thing that you've seen is sometimes you have these zero tolerance policies in prosecutors' offices, and they say, well, we're always charging this with a felony, no matter what, as long as somebody technically violated the law. And I'll give you a quick example. So the current prosecutor's office has had a no tolerance policy for gun crimes, which, look, that makes some sense. It sounds good on a as a general rule. Nobody wants gun violence, but there was somebody who was suicidal, and they went to a park, and their partner called the police because they were suicidal, and they intervened, but the prosecutor's office decided to prosecute them for a gun crime because they had a gun in the park, right? And I think most of us would say that's not really justice, right? But it's the result of a sort of standard policy that you have that says we have zero tolerance for these cases, and we don't care what the particular facts and circumstances were. So we're going to try to take a sort of more human approach to the charges that come into our office, and give our assistant prosecuting attorneys discretion to do what they think is right in the interests of justice, not just to do stuff because a crime was violated on paper. And so I think that's something that we can look forward to in the prosecutor's office. That really is more about the day-to-day and the how we're dealing with the many cases that come into the office.
Great question, Turo.
Great question.
Brother Bilal, you are up next. And then after that, we have Brian Johnson. Bilal?
Shout out Turo, man. I got to say, from the second I've got involved with MBK, he's been my motivation to be active and to educate myself and to be better. So Turo, shout out, man. You're I don't know how to say it, you're my hero. So, but you know, love this conversation, and I think it's important to remember that, you know, we're considered that we live in a progressive community, and Arbor is always forward thinking, and you know, we're open to new ideas. We're considered a very blue liberal county. But the reality is that, you know, we're segregated, and there's a massive divide between the Black community and the non-Black community. And so as myself, as a non-Black male, I try very hard, and maybe I understand this because I'm a minority, to connect the two. And I lived in Ipsy for 15 years, and it's, you know, it's in my heart. That is my community. But my question really, actually, this is for Victoria. You had mentioned how you really want to empower the Black community and look out for them more. But Broderick also alluded to how sometimes messages in the Black community are being hijacked, specifically in regards to criminal justice, how we feel about police, the conversation around police. So my question, long intro, sorry, my question actually is, what can we as allies to the Black community do to educate ourselves, to you know, build bridges between the communities, and to really educate ourselves? You know, what can we do? What should we be doing? And to listen better?
You're doing it right now. There is a saying that those most impacted and closest to the pain, they have the answers and the solutions, yet they're the furthest from the resources. And so if you are connected to the most impacted people, and you're listening to them, you're working with them, you are in essence breaking down the barriers without realizing it, just by being present, and not physically being present, but being present and being open with your ears and your heart to receive the trauma that they're conveying to you and to everyone in the community that they're going through and suffering. And if you listen, the solutions are right there as well. So I would encourage you to have various members in the community that you're connected to work tirelessly to coordinate and connect with Black men in the community who are experiencing this trauma from the criminal legal system. And I'll also say that I don't believe it's just Black men who are traumatized by the criminal legal system, not at all. You know, I think it's fair to say that this system, it attacks and it feasts on marginalized people. That is Black and brown people, that's poor people, that's people with mental health issues, that's people with drug and substance use and abuse, right? Our babies, our youth. So there are a number of people that are really connected just by the simple fact that this system, it attacks all of us in various ways, and we will go farther together. And having moments like this, where different members of different communities are coming together and they're listening and they're asking those questions and being open to receiving genuine, real answers, that's the first step.
Thank you.
Another great question. Thank you, Bilal. And I should say this too, like, you know, one of our main tenors in Washington My Brother's Keeper is to be unapologetically Black. But one of the other things to really have, and we have it all throughout our languages, we're talking about those marginalized groups, as you said, Victoria, and we're talking about Black and brown folks here in Washington County. So there may be certain issues that come up more for others, but for us not to lose sight on what our ultimate goal is. And it isn't just here in Washington. I mean, Barack Obama was very clear when he started My Brother's Keeper and who all it really encompassed. And when some of us had the opportunity to go to the national convening, it was a beautiful sight to see so many Black and brown folks come together to talk about these issues, indigenous folks. So there's a lot of issues that get swept under the rug here in Washington County, beyond just talking about Black men. But I think as we talk about the criminal justice system, let's not sugarcoat it, right? When I look in the jail where I work, the majority of the folks who are in that jail are poor and Black. men. And when you look at the juvenile justice system, we're talking about poor Black boys primarily. So I love this discussion and conversation, but I'll thank you again for.
Hey, Derek, really quickly, but I also want to make sure it's crystal clear that while we are my brother's keeper, we are unapologetically Black and understanding that this affects a large swath of different cultures. We also understand the women that are affected by the criminal justice system, whether it's mothers, sisters, girlfriends, grandmas, aunties, all of these folks who have this tangential effect or are affected tangentially, to whatever crime is either committed or the prosecution that happens therefore because of it. So we get a lot of questions from the sisters around when is there going to be a My Sister's Keeper? And when we were in Oakland, we saw young ladies who were a part of My Sister's Keeper. And right now we're working on bandwidth to be able to figure out how we make that happen. But I wanted to make sure we acknowledge, especially since we shot down Maxine Shaw and all of the sisters on Living Single, that the women that are on here understand we are working to make sure we look at this from a whole perspective. But equally as important, we acknowledge the harm that is done to the women in the lives of the men who are being unjustly, whether it's just or unjust, prosecuted. So I want to make sure we got that out there. Sorry for the interruption.
And can I also add to that, Shamar, that I want to uplift the women who are increasingly being brought into the criminal justice system. If you look, 10, 15 years ago, the numbers for, women prisoners was relatively low compared to what it is now. And so the system, it's not discriminating and saying we just want the men. It's coming after our men, us as women, and our babies. So we're affected in both ways, when they take our men and when they take us.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Derek. I just want to make one comment.
Yep.
I really appreciate that conversation, that piece right there, because we as women might not be incarcerated, but our babies, our sons are being incarcerated at an alarming rate. And this affects a whole household when that happens. And the support that we need, maybe creating an organization for women. And I know that Florence Robertson has a support group, but that's just excellent conversation right there.
Yeah, and I think you might have heard it on the WMBK album that the young men did. There was an interlude, Miss Jeanette, and it was your voice. It was the story you shared with us several months ago, and I think it's my favorite song. It is my favorite one too. I play that.
I know. You know what? Shamar sent that to me, and I'm telling you, like, you guys are awesome, and I just want to be a part of us growing as a community, as a mom of color. That album is awesome. Big ups to you guys.
You're awesome.
Hey, Jamal, this is the plug. This is the time for the plug. If you haven't gotten the album, Jamal, let them know.
First of all, thank you, Jeanette. You are awesome. Thank you for allowing us to use your voice on the album, first and foremost. And yes, Formula 734. I will put the link in the chat. You can purchase it if you would like, but really we just want as many people to hear it as possible. Carry on, Derek. I'll put the link in the chat.
Yeah, for those who are new, like Miss Victoria, Jamal and a couple of the brothers and Mike and Roderick did a great thing. They got some young men together and they actually made an album and they would talk about really significant issues. There's a documentary along with it. So if you can get the album, that would be great. But one of the interludes on there is Miss Jeanette, when she just so profoundly talked about her role as a mom of someone who's incarcerated. And Shamar, thank you for bringing up that topic. I think that's really, really important. And I will just say this, our in-person breakfasts, they were good, but when we expanded it and some of the moms started coming with their sons and we had the women in the room, it actually got way better because there was more depth to the conversation. And so you're absolutely right, Shamar, to bring that up. I think is a really important piece. All right, just moving on, just for time's sake, we only have a little bit more time with Miss Victoria and Mr. Eli. Brian Johnson, you are up next, and then we got Brother Madasser after that.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
Before I can interrupt Brian because I've known Brian for a really long time. I got a tech question. Brian raised his hand. He used the raise his hand feature. How did you do that, Brian?
I clicked on participants at the bottom,
Okay.
and then if you look over to the right, you'll see the names, and then you should see raise hand, yes, no, go slower, go faster. So I did it that way. There you go. I see Mike used it.
I don't. Okay. Whatever. I don't.
We got to do an IT support class for Jamal.
Jamal, don't click on the arrow. Jamal, don't click on the arrow. Click just to the left of that, and then it'll come up.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Brian, it's up on you. Your question.
Yeah. Well. First off, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here because I know I've been meaning to get here, probably for the better part of like a couple years at this point. So my apologies for this being my first official meeting. But when I stepped into the Zoom, I felt right at home because there are so many people here who I know and who I regard really highly. So thank you for that. Secondly, congratulations, Ellie and Victoria. Really excited for what you're already doing. And Victoria, I saw you on that subcommittee meeting. I got in late, so I didn't know exactly who you were, but I'm even more excited now. So I actually have two questions, but I'll ask one in the interest of time. We talk about your plans going forward and how we want to reform the system. I think I may have brought this up before, but I wanted to get your thoughts, especially Victoria's. I do remember an article that come out that was based on this Citizens for Racial Equity in Washtenaw study around the sentencing disparities or the charging and sentencing disparities for Black people in Washtenaw County, and in that said something like upwards of 20, we're 20 times more likely to be charged with a felony. And of course, that has contributed to this high level of incarceration for Black people in this county. And I was just wondering if there were any thoughts. I know a lot of that study was like, hey, we're gonna bring up the problem. There's more to look into, why this was happening, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just wondering if you all had given any thought to one, expanding that study or finding ways to go into that data and understand where these disparities are happening, so that we could take more of a data-driven approach to moving forward. And then secondly, I just think about, like Jeanette, I have family members who are incarcerated now, and that's one reason that I got involved in general with Ellie's campaign and others who just got the book thrown at them, and I felt there were some issues around them being Black, and that's why they ended up there. Is there any thought about looking at the system and looking back at some of these folks that have been victims of it and kind of making good and maybe changing some things so we can get them back as productive members of society?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes to both, and let me. So the Crew report, which was it's a very well done report, and it's it was a group of citizens in Washtenaw that took it upon themselves to go get public records and analyze the racial disparities in our justice system. And what it concluded, it looked at 11 types of felonies, and Black people in Washtenaw County are between 3 and 29 times more likely to be charged for certain types of crimes than are white people relative to the population. Now, and we've been working really closely with the Crew authors, and Brian, as you note, they are the Crew report itself says this is just a first step. It's not. It shouldn't be the end of the analysis, because what the Crew report says is it tracks outcomes. It does not identify where in the system those racial disparities and racially disparate treatment are occurring. And so I'll take an example. One example is, according to the Crew report, Black people in Washtenaw County are 4 times as likely as white people to be charged with felony possession of a controlled substance, with drug possession, right? Now, what we don't know is why is that happening? And there's several potential reasons for that. It could be the case that we are seeing charges involving Black people referred to the prosecutor's office at 4 times the rates of white people, right? It could be that when the prosecutor's office is making charging determinations for similar types of conduct, they are charging white people with misdemeanors and Black people with felonies. It could be the case that the prosecutor's office is declining drug possession cases involving white people at a disproportionate rate that they decline drug possession cases involving Black people. It could be that white people get opportunities for treatment and rehabilitation programs in lieu of a criminal charge, but Black people don't get that same opportunity. It could, and probably it is some combination of the above. But what we really need to do is identify the points in the system where we are seeing people being treated differently because of race, and that's the project that we are embarking on. So I'm hopeful that in the coming weeks or months we will have a partnership to announce on that. But what we are going to be doing on this is we're going to be partnering with independent third-party evaluators. And we've got a great team sort of in the waiting here. Frankly, we've got all the pieces put together, but we're just looking for funding to do this work. But they are going to come in. We are going to be totally transparent. We are going to open up the prosecutor's office's files, and they are going to go through and they are going to analyze exactly where in the system, not just with respect to charging decisions, but also with respect to plea bargaining conduct, whether somebody gets an enhanced sentence and the like. We are seeing people being treated differently because of race. Now, what's also important about this is we need to be treating likes alike, right? We need to be saying, look, here is similar conduct, and drug possession is a pretty easy example, right? If you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. But you look at things like resisting and obstructing an officer. You can focus on the racial disparities there, but the truth of the matter is you've got to analyze and compare like cases to like cases, because it's one thing to say, well, you were, and I'll give an example. Are we charging Black people if they struggle a little bit while handcuffs are being put on, but the prosecutor's office declines similar conduct when a white person struggles and puts handcuffs on? That's racially disparate treatment, right? But you can't really say, well, a Black person that may have fled or may have assaulted an officer got different treatment than a white person who was struggling putting handcuffs on, because those are different types of cases. We really need a robust study that treats likes alike and identifies where we are seeing racially biased and racially disparate treatment in the justice system. We're going to be totally transparent about this. We're going to be totally open about this, and it's not something that we're going to be doing internally, because you need somebody that's external, that's a third party doing this work. Like I said, we've got a great team in the waiting here, and it's frankly just a question of getting funding in at this point before we can get started on this work. Then to the second part of your question. So I'll say this. We're going to identify the disparities, and then we're going to eliminate it. And I don't believe in leveling up, right? One way that you can deal with disparities is to say, well, let's treat white people worse. I don't believe in that. I think that if a outcome is good enough for a white person, right? If we're giving white people the benefit of the doubt, everybody deserves that same treatment, right? And so we're going to eliminate those disparities as they pertain to our office by leveling down and give everybody the treatment that the most privileged among us get. The second part, so we're well on our way with that. The second part of your question is a little bit more complicated. Looking back, what can we do to rectify old wrongs in the criminal justice system? And I'll say one thing that we are hoping to get through is to build a conviction, integrity, and expungement unit that would both look back at wrongful convictions in the past, right? And they do this in Wayne County. They do this in the Michigan Attorney General's office. Something like 40 prosecutors' offices have these across the country. And so if we obtained a wrongful conviction, we should be doing everything possible to get that person out. The other thing that this unit will do is provide assistance to Washtenaw County residents who are eligible for expungement and are seeking to expunge their old criminal records. We'd walk them all the way through the point of getting their application submitted, and then we connect them with a pro bono attorney to go into court and do that. And I've been working with Administrator Dill on this and the sheriff on this, and we've got I think conceptually at least, the stars aligned there, and I think it's reflective of Washtenaw County really wanting to undo past wrongs that that the justice system may have made, and then also to help people get a fresh start, even if they did something wrong in the past. If they stayed out of trouble, we should be getting their criminal records expunged and doing everything we can to give them that fresh start. But you asked specifically about sentencing, and I've got to be candid on this. Sentencing is tough. It's legally it is tough to go in as the prosecutor's office and seek to undo a past sentence. Now, what we are looking at, and this is where we're fortunate to be sort of part of a sort of national movement that's thinking about criminal justice reform, and it echoes what the sheriff said earlier. You know, it's not just about Washtenaw County. We can also learn from other places. I've actually got a call next week with some folks, some legal scholars that have looked at these issues and are looking at, you know, what can be done around you know, sentences that may have been unjustly obtained in the past. But I got to be candid. Just the way that Michigan law is set up, it's tougher to go in and rectify past sentences than it is to go in and rectify wrongful convictions, which is potentially a shortcoming in you know, legislation. But that's sort of where we are. So we're looking at it. But I have to be candid about the legal restrictions that are applicable there.
So if anyone's interested in the crew report, it's an important document. Ellie's mentioned it several times. So I did drop that link into the chat. And I think for the fellas on the call is really, actually for everybody on the call, is really important to read through that. So we're really running short on time. So Madassa and Mike, I know we had you on the list for a while. Can we just have it as a brief comment, question, and then Ellie, just for the essence of time, maybe keep the answer shorter so we can get people out of here on time. So Madassa, you're up.
It's just a quick comment. Thanks, Derek. Good afternoon, family. I just want to give kudos to Ellie and Nick for two things. You know, I started joining My Brother's Keeper about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. And consistently, these two brothers have been coming to this My Brother's Keeper. I started supporting Ellie the first time I met him at a My Brother's Keeper event. And even after, you know, sometimes people come here when they want to run for office, but Ellie and Nick have consistently been coming here, been supporting every effort that we've done, every program that we've done. They're the first one there and the last ones to leave. So I just wanted to give kudos to these two brothers. And with Victoria, you ran marvelously in Wayne County. I've known Prosecutor Worthy for 15 years. I've never seen her sweat, but you made her sweat. So keep doing what you're doing. We're excited for the prosecutor's office. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Brother Madassa, I'm glad you said that. I know Nick is in here. We got a couple other folks that did campaign. Miss Rain, obviously, we've been seeing her a lot in the chat. And Ellie, I think for people to come back, and I'll be honest, personally, that's one of the things I was watching for, to see who's still sticking with us once the campaign season is done. To come here to a community like MBK to gain votes is one thing. To really be committed to the work that we're trying to do is a whole other thing. So you're absolutely right, Madassa. Kudos to that. And thanks, Ellie, Nick, and Irene, and there may be some other folks that I'm missing who are on this call for definitely coming back post election time. All right, so last one, Brother Mike Henry, you're going to end us off with the questions, and then we'll turn it back over to Jamal.
Great. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. And thanks for moderating this so well. Madassa did the thing I was going to do, especially related to Nick, but I will say that the day after he unfortunately didn't win, he was down doing election protection, you know, in Detroit for folks for the presidential. So that was one of the key piece of it. Y'all all know I'm a big fan of Nick's. Appreciate him and love him. I did want to give Ellie an opportunity to talk about the logo contest and the young sister who has designed the new logo, and then he can also, if he likes, to accept my challenge, because he always talks about being a basketball player, being a baller. After COVID is over, I would love to challenge you and whatever team you choose here. You know, you can pick, you know, Shamar, you can take Jerry, you know, I got a squad. You know, I'm taking Victoria, I'm taking Rush, Justin, Brian, and Turo, and I'll get Irene on my coaching staff. So go ahead, get it.
Okay. Well, I will talk about the logo contest, but Mike, like I've told you before, anytime, any place. I just you talk a big game, but you know, every time it actually comes to show up on the basketball court, I've never seen you there. So when and now I love that you're throwing down the gauntlet now, but it's COVID. Oh look, we're going into January. Numbers are spiking. We certainly can't do it now. Where have you been throwing down this challenge before? When we were meeting in person, you never said any of this stuff, and now all of a sudden we're on Zoom. Like now you're challenging me. So
I feel disrespected that he immediately traded me. Like you didn't even put me on your. I'm the biggest dude on the team. Justin, say something. Justin, you gonna play against me?
He's the boss man. He's the boss man.
Got him.
Let me tell you what you picked up in me, Mike. You picked up an old washed up center with a torn ACL, so you ain't gonna get nothing from me, man.
Played a little basketball in high school and junior high, so yeah, I'm a little short, but I can play a little bit.
I just added, can we play football instead? Because I don't know about basketball. I mean, I'm tall, but
come on, Ralph.
Sure.
I'll play. I genuinely think that Shamar's just gonna.
There you go, Turo.
All right.
Hey, this is Ricky. Thanks, guys. You had a great show, but I'm gonna tell you though, I am not gonna get hurt for you guys. I'll be the referee.
All right, fellas. This is a great discussion. I was getting a lot of people in the chat just saying to me personally, like they really appreciate the thoughtful questions, but also the thoughtful responses, and people are pretty excited about the potential work. So, Ellie, anytime in the future that you and Victoria want to come back or have other things for us, I think, again, to help us educate ourselves, but also for us to have the information and the education to fully get engaged and involved. So with that, thank you very much for being here with us. And Jamal, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you for everyone who joined us. A couple quick little parting announcements. We are joined by our brand new hired graduate assistant. As you can see, I'm struggling with tech. I wear so many hats for WMBK. I'm saying it's hard to juggle all this. So we have been blessed to be joined by Anthony Irvin, who is our graduate Eastern Michigan University graduate assistant, who will be helping with a lot of this work, mainly with our young people at the middle school boys group. Anthony, if you want to say hi real quick, go ahead, give a shout.
Thanks, JB. Hey, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Blessings always. I just want to say I'm very excited to be a part of this organization. It's like a homecoming for me. It was like a marriage. And when I met JB, it was like instantly, and I'm locked in with him for life. So, I'm just glad to be a part of WMKB now, and I look forward to just bringing my flavor, my style. My motivation and my desires to make sure that our young men have a chance to be on platforms like us with, and see to it that we can be elite individuals as well. So I just want to continue to grow with y'all, and I'm glad to be a part of this team. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anthony. Couple quick announcements. The Formula 734 documentary is complete. Finally, Fred, I don't know if Fred is still on the call or not. He was. There he is. What's up, Fred? Thank you. You did an amazing job. We need help. We want to screen this. We want to do like a drive-in style parking lot screening with a big screen. People pull up in their cars and watch this. So please let us know if you have any leads on a possibility like that. We've talked, we've been in conversation with Eastern Michigan University. We want to do it at Ypsilanti first and foremost. We know we want to do it at Ypsilanti. So if anybody has resources, please contact me. Let me know how we can make this happen in our community. We'll of course screen it online. We'll do Zoom screenings and all that stuff, but we want to get the people together. I know it's COVID and we want to be super safe, but let us know if you have any insights on how to make that happen. We're also doing another COVID relief supply distribution this coming Thursday in West Willow. We'll have masks, we'll have paper towels, cleaning products, bleach, Pine Sol. So if you want to volunteer, please come join us. Or if you need to come pick something up, come join us. Thursday, 10 a.m. in West Willow. Anybody got like a 10-second? We can do a 10-second round of town in this last minute. If anybody else got anything really quick they want to share.
Ellie didn't get a chance to talk about the sister who won the logo contest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Ellie.
Oh, sure. So we wanted a new logo for the prosecutor's office that reflected our sort of incoming values. So we opened it up to anybody 23 and under in Washtenaw County. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet, it's on my social media. There was an MLive article about it, but the young lady who won, Atia Farouk, she just did a beautiful job and gave a beautiful explanation. It features a person holding up the scales of justice, and she wrote beautifully about how the shortcomings, but also the potential for human-centered justice, and it features trees growing together, emphasizing compassion and connection and good outcomes from the justice system. So just tremendously talented, and I hope you get a chance to take a look at the new logo that you know it's going to be our official logo now, and also read her statement. And thank you also to Mike. Mike did generously increase the prize pot for the logo competition to get her the yeah, that's just right there. So it's beautiful, and to get her the recognition that she deserved for her hard work. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, people. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next month. I will have this Facebook Live thing figured out. I promise you. I'm about to sit down with Turo right now. He gonna give me a tutorial because I know he know how to do all this. Much love. Take care. We'll see y'all soon.
Good job, Jamal. Thank you, brother.
Take care. Be safe.
Great job, everybody.
All right, bro.
Have a good one.